everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I have an exciting video for you today. I have the Ultimate Ferret Care Guide 2020 edition. If you are unsure whether or not a ferret will fit into your life, stay tuned to find out. We are going to be talking all about ferrets, all about their care, how to get them, how to maintain them, and so on. And if you are a seasoned ferret owner, feel free to keep watching to find out if anything has changed since you have last read up on ferrets, because it is very important as pet owners that we continuously look for new information. I will try to keep this guide more concise and to the point in comparison to the last one that I made. I also just wasn't really great at talking to the camera back then, so I like to think that I'm a little bit better with it now, so I hope that this guide will be a little bit more helpful. So our first section is going to be adopt or shop. I discussed this a little bit in my last guide, but to keep things brief, always adopt or buy from a reputable breeder. Do not buy from the pet store. Here are a few reasons why you shouldn't be buying from a pet store. The number one being you are supporting an animal mill. It is practically the exact same as a puppy mill. So like if you go to the pet store to buy a puppy, it is the exact same concept. And when you buy a ferret from the pet store, it will just be replaced in the coming week and so on. So you're not exactly rescuing that animal. You are just opening up the spot for more ferrets to be shipped out to that store and to be sold. Number two is they have an unknown health history. Pet store ferrets very commonly have issues such as ear mites, intestinal parasites, upper respiratory infections, and more. It's a gamble when you're buying from a pet store. Do not go there and think that you are getting healthy baby ferrets. That is not always the case. The third being, they have not been seen by an actual vet prior to you buying them. Some large chains will claim that they've been seen by a vet, but there's no way to really confirm this. When you get a pet store ferret, you need to take them to the vet immediately for all the reasons that I discussed before. Another thing is pet store ferrets are very expensive. They're generally around $250 per ferret at stores. Maybe you'll get a discount if you buy more, but every store is different. But that is a lot of money, especially one that you need to take to the vet immediately upon bringing them home. It's a bit of a hefty price. And then the last point that I wanted to talk about is they generally will have behavioral problems due to little handling in the store. You will have to follow bite training and potty training with them. Another thing, ferrets are sold much too young in the pet stores. They are taken practically right from their moms and shipped to the stores. So they will have missed out on crucial socialization opportunities that they would have received by being with their mother and their siblings. Very often pet store ferrets can be very nippy when you first get them. Some of them will be still crying for their mom. There are many pros to adopting. The first being you are supporting a shelter, the shelter that takes in animals and helps out. That is their job. That's what they do. And I find that it's great to support local shelters that do this work. Number two, ferrets will have been seen by the shelter vet and you will receive proof of this. Generally, they will give you an actual copy of the vet records that they had done while being at the shelter. Number three, if you are buying from a reputable breeder, they will have been seen by a vet as well, and bloodlines will be healthy, and they will not have the health issues associated with early neutering. I will link a list below of active breeders if you are interested. Important to note that some breeders will not sell to first-time owners. A larger variety as far as age groups go. I always recommend ferrets that are over a year, maybe 2 years old for new ferret owners. I find them to be the easiest. They will most likely already be potty trained and have gone through bite training. To find ferrets in an area, simply Google your state and then ferrets at the end. For example, I would search New York ferrets. Ferret sanctuaries, relevant shelters, groups, and pet finder ads will appear after searching that. You can also use Craigslist. It's riskier to rescue via Craigslist, but if you really can't find anything, it is a good option. Now, if you are unable to obtain a ferret, let's say if your parents do not allow it, I have a video that talks about it here if you are interested. There are still many different things that you can do that helps ferrets in your area, such as fostering and sponsoring. When buying from an actual breeder, you may have different options when it comes to ferrets and the breeds types of ferrets that you get. You can obtain standard ferrets, Angora, semi-Angora, polecat hybrids, and so on. So the first being standard ferrets. Standard ferrets are what you most commonly see here in the States. So they are prone to many genetic diseases and deafness simply because of where they come from here in the States, but that is the most popular breed that you will see here. In other places, you may have access to Angora and semi-Angora. Here's what I know about the Angora breed. They have deformed noses, ears or a cleft palate, which makes them more sensitive to heat because they cannot breathe properly. Also can have hair that grows out of their nostrils, which also makes it hard for them to regulate their body temperature. They cannot produce milk for their young, so many breeders will have a mix of semi-Angora, half Angora, and full Angora. They do not have a proper coat. They have long guard hairs, but they have a lack of an undercoat, which makes it so they do not tend to do well in cold temperatures as well. Although the lack of undercoat generally makes them smell better, apparently, from what I've heard. They do need a lot of grooming because of their long hair. They're prone to matting and hairballs, and for some reason they can be bitey in nature, is something that I have heard as well. I personally would not seek out an Angora for myself. While they are absolutely beautiful, stunning ferrets, I personally would prefer other breeds. I like to see them more as sort of like those boxer breeds and dogs, pugs, Frenchies, and whatnot that have trouble breathing because of the way that they are bred. That is sort of how I see them. A lot of people love boxers and whatnot, but they are just not the breed for me. The next one are polecat hybrids. These guys tend to be more wild and intense. They can be difficult to train and are prone to biting. They require more socialization because of this. They are more independent, more intelligent. They tend to be larger than standard ferrets. They also tend to have longer lifespans. If you are a new ferret owner, I would recommend standard ferrets if you have the option of all of these. Did you know that ferrets only come in 2 colors naturally? Sable and albino. The mill industry breeds for color, so you'll see things like panda and silver, other colors that ferrets do not naturally come in. Now, this is a bit of a controversial topic in the ferret world. You'll see a bunch of different opinions if you Google this topic. Now, personally, I think that ferrets should generally always be kept in pairs or groups. Ferrets are social animals, so they thrive on being with their species. I have experience keeping a single ferret, and of course now I have 4, so I can really compare the differences. Pazu was depressed when I had him as a single ferret. He didn't want to play with toys, he was constantly trying to escape, and he was bored. Now that he's in a group with others, he loves to play with toys, he's very rambunctious, he doesn't obviously try to escape anymore, he eats with them, he sleeps with them, he follows them around, he loves his siblings. They complete each other. When he was ill, they were trying so hard to get into his cage to get to him, and he was so sad watching them all play together and eat together, and it was just really heartbreaking to see, so I couldn't imagine keeping him by himself. Also, something to note that single ferrets require a lot more time and attention. You are their playmate, and in comparison, when you have a group or a pair, they tend to keep themselves pretty occupied. I also get this question a lot. If I have a nice cat, can I just get 1 ferret and then they will be playmates, essentially? And my answer is always no. These are 2 different species, they have 2 different play styles, and a ferret does not understand the social cues of a cat and vice versa. Ferrets play very, very rough and are not suitable playmates for kittens or older, more passive, submissive cats. They can bite the tips of their ears off or just really become a nuisance for many cats. And same with dogs. So dogs on accident could hurt a ferret in just a quick snap. The lifespan of ferrets greatly depend on where you got them from, how you raise them, how you care for them. When buying a breeder ferret, you have a better chance of a longer living ferret. In the States, shelter ferrets generally came from the pet store, so they are usually mill ferrets. A healthy and properly bred ferret can live anywhere between 8 to 10 plus years. I've seen ferrets that have lived until 15 years old in other countries because they are bred better and raised better. Most mill ferrets typically only live between 6 to 8 years, even younger than that, unfortunately. With any ferret, it is crucial that you provide proper housing and proper diet because those things greatly influence lifespan as well. We all know that I am a strict raw feeder and I will only ever promote a balanced raw diet for ferrets. Ferrets are obligate carnivores and thrive on a species appropriate diet. Ferrets are not biologically built to digest things like corn, grain, vegetable protein, and plant matter. A ferret raised on dry food runs the risk of developing many diet-related diseases such as insulinoma, bladder stones, poor oral health, obesity, and more. I have loads of resources on raw diets on this channel, but to keep it brief, raw diets have many benefits for your ferret, some of which include better coat and weight maintenance. Many kibble-fed ferrets have dry, dull, brittle coats. You may have animals that have very dry skin that are very itchy. They also tend to be overweight or obese. While ferrets are generally good self-regulators, I still see many overweight and obese ferrets in the media. Ferrets are a very lean animal and they should not be the same weight all year round. Number 2, better hydration. Ferrets are not natural water drinkers. They get most of what they need from their prey. Feeding a balanced raw diet gives them pretty much all of the water that they need every single day. Ferrets get dehydrated very easily because they are so little, and feeding a dry food practically leaves them on the brink of dehydration all the time. A raw diet is nutritionally complete. Every meal contains a plethora of vitamins and minerals for them. It is perfect the way that it is, just like nature intended for it to be. Number 4, better oral health. So when a ferret bites into a kibble, the little pieces break apart and sit in the gum lining, irritating the gums and creating things like periodontal disease. Starch, or what holds the kibble together, essentially destroys the teeth over time. And we are seeing plaque and tartar buildup in ferrets less than a year old, when in the wild, plaque and tartar is naturally occurring in older animals. However, we are seeing it in much too young of animals. So if you pull back your ferret's gums, you may see a yellow to blackish coloring on their back molars. This is buildup. This can only be removed by a veterinarian under anesthesia. Plaque that is not that bad can generally be removed with a fresh and natural raw diet. Number 5, you have a lower risk of bladder stones and insulinoma. These are diet-related diseases. Diet-related stones generally occur because of dehydration and just awful ingredients that the ferret should not be digesting. So on a raw diet, of course, your ferret is not getting that, and they are always hydrated, and they do not get the starches that are in most kibbles that are generally associated with insulinoma. Number 6, better energy levels. Your ferrets will play longer, they will be stronger, they'll tire less easily. Now this might sound annoying to new owners, but it is absolutely wonderful to see ferrets play and climb like they are supposed to. Number 7, they smell better. Raw-fed ferrets smell so much better. Their poop also doesn't smell as bad as well. And that brings me to my next point. They have less poop. Raw-fed ferrets absorb more of the nutrients that they are getting from their diet, so there is less that passes through. These are only some of the benefits that a raw diet can provide, but you must do it correctly, follow all the guidelines, and this is why I have created my own raw mentoring program for those interested in transitioning their ferrets from kibble to raw. And I created this course not only to make it easier for new people, but ferrets can be very stubborn when transitioning to a new food. They're not like a dog who will just eat anything, most of them anyway. They're very picky, they imprint on their food, and transitioning can take anywhere between a week to 8 weeks and more. Ferrets cannot live their entire lives in a cage. I don't know what you have heard, but ferrets need at least 6 to 8 and more hours of free ranging every single day. Not a couple times a week, not 2 hours a day, 6 to 8 and more. It is important to note that they are not rodents. They are part of the Mustelidae family, which includes otters, mink, badgers, and so on. Ferrets thrive on a free-range lifestyle. I generally tell people that they don't need to buy a cage for their ferret as long as they can free roam let's say a room or a playpen. This can be their cage. Of course, care needs to be taken around other animals and they shouldn't be left unsupervised around dogs and cats, but they can definitely coexist with well-mannered dogs and cats. For more information on free roaming and ferret proofing, check out my blog post that I have on this topic, and I also have a video on it as well. There's also the debate of keeping ferrets indoors or outdoors. In the States, our ferrets are generally weaker. They do not have proper coats to withstand the outside elements all year round. So in the States, I always recommend keeping ferrets indoors, and even if I lived in a country where it was more common to keep them outside, I still wouldn't. I like to have my ferrets with me all the time. I like to see them running around inside. On a balanced raw diet, treats and supplements are not needed for a ferret, but if you must, you can feed freeze-dried or air-dried treats that contain only one ingredient. Vitamin pastes are very bad for ferrets as they contribute to insulinoma with the amount of malt syrup sugars that it contains. In fact, now that I'm on the topic of vitamin paste, I'm going to put a bunch of pictures of other ferret marketed products that you might stumble upon in a store, and you don't need to waste your money on these things, please, and you will be saving a lot of money. There are so many ferret marketed products in the store that you do not need to buy, so again, save your money and pass on these products. Salmon oil is a popular treat and supplement that many people use. I personally choose to incorporate actual fish in the diet occasionally. This can be a good tool to, let's say, transitioning ferrets to raw or to help boost their coat health. I just made a video on this topic here, but to put it briefly, ferrets do not need a lot of maintenance. They are pretty easy to maintain. People like to go overboard with the bathing and the ear cleaning when they really don't have to be. Number 1, ferrets do not need baths. Do not bathe your ferret. If you must, once a year in an oatmeal soak, which I demonstrate in the video that I mentioned before, that is fine. But anything other than that, no soaps, no harsh chemicals, nothing. Even if you weren't to use soaps and you were just going to give your ferret like a hot water bath, this can still strip their natural oils and make them smellier. It just ruins their coat. Just leave them alone, just like a cat. Number 2, ferrets do not generally need their ears cleaned. If you have more than one ferret, they will clean each other's ears. I don't typically do this at all. If you notice your ferrets are scratching their ears more than normal, they may have ear mites and they will need to be seen by a veterinarian for treatment. If you must, you can use a warm washcloth to clean the outer part of the ear, but that's about it. Number 3, ferrets do need their nails trimmed. Now, if they have access to an outdoor enclosure, let's say daily, where they can scratch their nails on things, they may not need it done as much. But for the majority of us who keep our ferrets inside, it is recommended to clip their nails every 2 to 3 weeks. Number 4, ferrets who are fed a dry food must have their teeth brushed regularly. It won't compare to raw meaty bones in the diet, so you're gonna have to do it at least every other day to make even a little bit of a difference. Poor oral health is not to be messed with. Ferrets can become severely ill and or die if their teeth and gums are not healthy. Ferrets get bored super easily even if you have a group of them, so I have a list of things that you might want to try for enrichment for your ferret. The first being rice box for digging. Only use long grain non-instant rice for this. Tubes, ball pits, cat cubes and tunnels, cat wands, interactive cat toys, and tree puzzle toys, and there are of course many more things. Stay clear or use caution with toys made of rubber, toys with attached eyeballs and stuffing or beads. Ferrets are very prone to blockages, and these toys are practically a blockage risk. You may choose to let your ferrets play outside. Do it on leash or in a ferret-proofed enclosed space. You may want to consider vaccinating your ferrets before doing this, depending on your area. Ferrets do sleep a lot, and it's very on and off. That's why it's so important to give them a lot of free-range time, because they will, for example, sleep for 2 hours and then they're up for an hour and so on. It's very on and off throughout the day. A common misconception is that ferrets are nocturnal or they sleep 18 hours straight. These are both not true. Ferrets are crepuscular, meaning they are more active dawn and dusk, although they are able to change their sleep schedules to match their owners because they want to be up and awake when you are. That's when they get the most attention, food, etc. Ferrets are nippy in nature, so they are best suited for adults or older children. I do not recommend them for families with small kids, and I also don't recommend them for big families in general. In my experience, larger families just cannot provide the amount of free range time that ferrets need. They cannot provide the time and attention that they need as well. Ferrets can be trained not to bite via positive reinforcement. They can also be trained to potty in litter boxes and pee pads. Ferrets can get the zoomies, as I call it, where they will dance around the room, performing a weasel war dance, as it's called. They are very happy, very carefree animals, and they will climb your furniture, attempt to jump to high places. This is why ferret proofing is so important. There's a misconception that ferrets are mean and nasty, smelly critters. They are actually extremely sweet. Some will actually seek out owners to cuddle and play with. Mine love to be held, as you've seen on my channel, and they will give me kisses in appreciation every time. It is the cutest thing. They are so sweet. I finished the last video discussing vet bills and vet care for them, so I guess that's what I'll do here. Ferrets are classified as exotic animals, so they cannot be seen by normal veterinarians. You will need to see a vet that sees small animals and exotics. Because of this, ferrets are on the more expensive side for vet bills. Ferrets generally should be seen once a year for a wellness check by a vet, as well as to get their poop checked. Senior ferrets should be seen more frequently. Please take care during flu season, as ferrets can catch the common flu and other colds, so be careful when handling them. Always wash your hands before touching your ferrets after coming home from going somewhere. You may also choose to vaccinate your ferrets. The two options that you have are rabies and distemper. Please note that ferrets are very prone to negative vaccine reactions. Because of this, there are actually a lot of veterinarians that advise against vaccinating ferrets. Extra care needs to be taken before and after administration of vaccines for ferrets. If you can, try to find a holistic veterinarian practice over a conventional one. I'm not going to say all conventional vets are bad, but it's better to find a vet who understands the benefits of a raw diet and who is constantly on the lookout for new advances in ferret medicine. This is very important to me. I have been to many conventional vet offices, and the same things are being recommended that were seen as beneficial many years ago, when nowadays they are seen as very bad. They have been linked to cancers and other problems in ferrets, and these things are still being recommended today. So I find holistic veterinarians tend to have a better outlook on things. Anyways, thank you guys so much. That is the end of my Ferret Care Guide 2020. I hope you enjoyed it, hope it was helpful, and I'm so excited to be here again. My last care guide did so well with you all. It is really what sparked people's interest in my channel, so I'm so thankful for that video. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more ferret content, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!